Hello, everybody. Today we were going to talk about Thailand. Hello? Hello? Hello, 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 hello. Hello, testing, 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 testing. Okay, that should be about where we want the volume to be. Sorry about this. Just wanted to make sure that we got the volume working well here. So basically, one of the things I was really surprised at about what's going on around the world is that Thailand is the number one tourist attraction. So you can see basically list of cities by international visitors. This is top 100 ranked. And this is also looking at how much people are spending in these various cities. But basically, Bangkok, Thailand is number one. And I think it's partly because of the cost, and then also just because of vicinity. When you think about it, like a lot of people in India or China, when they look for a place to go, they want to look for a pretty affordable place, and that happens to be Thailand. So a lot of that visitors is from India and China. But it's actually international. So the second most visited is Hong Kong, which is actually a very expensive place. So it's interesting to see this list here. Now, I cannot vouch for this list. It looks like when you look at United States, New York City is basically number one on this list for visitors, but it really is half the number of visitors that you see in Hong Kong or Bangkok. So I wanted to look carefully at what's going on in Thailand. And I'm fairly familiar because I've done some videos on Phuket and some other areas of Thailand, but we basically wanted to go look into what's going on here. So now, it's a little bit weird because when you take the total place by city is different than by country. So basically France and Spain and Europe is getting most of the visitors, and the United States. So basically, but per city, Bangkok is basically number one right now. But Europe is still definitely higher in terms of overall cities, and Turkey, Mexico, even Mexico is very high here. But you look at Mexico and you say, well, there's 45 million people visiting all of Mexico. Well, there's 30 million people visiting just Bangkok. So a little bit interesting because Mexico has Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico City, many different places, and then Germany obviously is up here, and then Greece. So when you take these all together, you have to kind of look at the data and say, well, I don't really know what's exactly going on, but the currency is also pretty low. So you basically get 30 of these Thai baht. It's getting worse though, because in general it's getting harder to travel to Thailand. Currency wise, maybe last year it was a little bit better. You get 37 or even 38 a couple years ago. 38 of these Thai baht to $1. And you can just do the math. You can do 31 and you get basically almost exactly $1 for this. So I want to look at a couple different maps. One of the things that got me really interested and excited about Thailand is that its potential to do good. Now, there's just such a lot of farmland here in Thailand. Some of the best food, if you think about it restaurants-wise, when you go out to eat in the United States, some of the best food is actually Thai food. It's Indian food, Thai food, but there's also Cambodia and Laos right on the border here. But basically, Thailand has almost all of that great farmland. And the nice part about this farmland is that it's not in the ocean. So when you get out into Philippines and you also get into Indonesia, a lot of that farmland becomes ocean farmland. And even in China, they're starting to farm in the ocean, particularly along the south side here, all the way from Shanghai and even north up into Beijing area. Almost they're farming in the ocean. There's just hundreds of thousands of ships. I should actually kind of show that map, but it's pretty surprising to see how much farming is going on there. Give me 1 second. Unfortunately, I don't have a pause for this, so we're just basically recording as is. The video compression rate is kind of changing now. I'm using new software. But really, that's a big hopeful thing. So there is a lot of pollution in Bangkok. Now, if I go to Zoom, you might even be able to see that today. I heard someone just yesterday complaining about going to Beijing, and they said that they could hardly even breathe in Beijing. Some of that, you can see today is pretty clean for most of northern India, but when you get out into Bangladesh and Calcutta area, that's almost always pretty polluted in the air. I'd have to ask my roommate how polluted it is in the air, but the air quality is definitely very important in Beijing. But they said they could hardly breathe in the wintertime. So in the wintertime in particular, the air gets to be difficult. But here, let's see if we can go back a few days. Let's zoom in on Bangkok. And you can see what happens on the map. So let's see if we can grab. This map is really highly intensive because it shows the wind flows. But the wind basically gets trapped in here. You can see the wind is very slow on this side. That's because there's a mountain range. And the clouds get trapped here. And then the clouds get basically trapped on the edges here. And then it kind of gets very polluted right in here. So I'm going to close this out because that takes a lot of processing power. But you can kind of see this on this map. So the clouds basically get trapped in here. And so this area in particular can get highly polluted. And actually the same thing may happen to Myanmar. And the same thing kind of happens in India, right? So you have this whole Himalayan stretch here, and then the pollution kind of comes right along here. So, but actually the pollution is good for the crops because it's carbon dioxide, and the green leaves need carbon dioxide, whereas we need oxygen. So it's kind of a funny trade-off. But the farmland is definitely better as you head out towards Chiang Mai. And you can see there's kind of a mountain range here, and the water flow goes out into Ho Chi Minh City and kind of out into Vietnam area. My mom actually lived down here in Vietnam for a little while. But anyway, so you can see Ho Chi Minh City. But if you really study this map carefully, you can see a lot about what's going on in Bangkok. And you can see that the farming has really changed everything, right? Especially in the rural areas. When you have quite a big distance between Chiang Mai, but a lot of tourist attraction is up into Chiang Mai now. In addition to Phuket, which is down in this region. You have to go down to all the way south here. So, but a lot of people fly into Bangkok and then maybe fly over to Phuket, or you can even fly directly to Phuket now, or you can fly directly to Chiang Mai. But basically, we're talking about the number one tourist attraction on the planet, right? So there's got to be a lot going on here. And the suspicion that I have is that the food quality is so good and the price is so good. And basically, you have beaches once you get down to Phuket, the beaches in here, and then there's a lot of weird little islands. But I think what happens is a lot of people fly into Bangkok and just stay in Bangkok because of the affordability and other reasons. But the beaches is the other major attraction for Thailand. And here you can kind of see this is the soil map mixed with the farming map, and you can see there's some kind of weird areas. There's that main area here. Actually, some of the best farmland is this blue land, which is basically floodplain. And that means you can do rice. And you'll see this up in Bangladesh as well. You get this blue region where it's like highly, like, you don't even know if your house is gonna stay there. It's kind of weird farmland. So that's also happens, and even to the same extent as we saw in India just there. But if you look into China, if I can zoom out here, it's going to take a little while to go to the floodplain and load this data. We're basically loading millions and millions of data points. But look at all the floodplain in China, and they're basically living on it here. So they've kind of learned to control it a lot better in China than like in India or Bangladesh or even Thailand. But basically, Thailand is really critical farmland. So that was what got me excited about studying it, because it would be really fun to just see really beautiful farmland and some of the best farmland in the world. They have rice competitions, so they make lots of rice, and then they like kind of have like a competition to who has the best rice in the world. Oftentimes Thailand will win. Sometimes it'll be Philippines or Indonesia, but basically Thailand is up there in quality. And even if you go to the store, some of the best rice will be from Thailand. But here you can see just the population map. So Bangkok definitely getting to be big, and you can see how this is sprawling out here, and it's actually going more off, I guess, to the east and towards Vietnam. And you can see Vietnam, what's going on in here. Just a huge amount of population in Vietnam. And we have been studying Vietnam, at least for the electronics industry recently, so I was looking into some things that were going on there. Because Samsung, I was trying to buy some cheap phones directly from the factories, find out some more details about how to do that. But here you can see the second busiest airport in the world is actually in Thailand. So at least for the Asian airports. So basically it's almost the same. A lot of these flights in Indonesia, right? But basically quite a lot of flights here. Let's just look at that location, because we probably want to see what that airport, this exact airport, because sometimes they have several airports in the same area, and this hasn't been working recently. I don't know if you noticed this on the Wikipedia, but it hasn't been working for the so we're gonna have to do this directly with Google, and then do it on a map here. So this is the airport that you probably would fly into if you're going into Thailand. The nice thing I loved about this, look at how the farmland is so close to the airport. So it's really interesting when you fly into places where the farmland is right there, and then the urban side is like right there as well. So basically this is the airport, very well connected to Bangkok, and you can see they have a high-speed train going right into Bangkok from there, so making it pretty easy. But wow, look at all that farmland, and this is some of the best farmland. My suspicion is that not only after looking at the stuff going on in Shanghai, they have very organized farmland in China, and I'm not willing to debate that with China, but I'm willing to debate that with India, because this is really organized, high quality farmland, and debatable whether or not it's even sunnier here in Thailand than it is in most of northern India, because India is further north, so the weather might be better, and a number of factors might make it better farmland in Thailand. But you can see it's green, and it's also got some white spots in here, which does kind of concern me. But it might be fun, because we were trying to organize a children's farm tour around the world. So basically helping people visit like remote farms and kind of set up some tourism. If you're interested in working on that project, let me know, and I'd be glad to try to talk with you about it. And you can join the conversation with us anytime. So that document we've been working on for like a few years is pretty interesting. So, and also the other thing is India is so populated, and same with Bangladesh and China. You see the population here. Bangkok is also really populated, but after you get out of Bangkok, It's not as bad. So, and that could be only a few miles. Whereas in northern India, you're basically talking about heavy population, as well as most of eastern China and the Far East getting very heavily populated. So it's not as bad, and that's maybe one reason why some of the tourists like it there. But you can still see this is heavy population. These are all the smaller airports. It doesn't actually show, for some reason, I don't know why it doesn't show. Let's just click on one of these. These are medium airports. So I wonder if we can add, let's see if this shows us anything helpful. Large airports. Let's add these. So maybe I didn't do it. Okay, yeah, so unfortunately I need to add this as a new map. I have I save these maps from time to time to try to help people look at where the airports are, because sometimes when you're traveling, you just want an airport map and you can see basically where you can get to, because the terrain can be very, sometimes even dangerous. But let me go change this on my main map here, edit this. This is my webpage. I keep track of like a few hundred maps from around the world. And if you're interested, you can just go to this website here, and that will take you to. We want to just re-edit this because this is not at all the airport link. And that's not helping at all. Bad that, and save it. So sorry about that. So there's basically a very important need to understand where those airports are. So there's a very big difference because, like, for example, this small airport, it can be actually dangerous. I've heard, flights can get pretty sketchy. But on a major airport like this one, this is in Da Nang, I think, Vietnam. That's a pretty easy to schedule and fly. There's a lot of flights going in and out of that. And this kind of tells you where it is relative to the rest of the city, which is great. You can see, let's go over to Hong Kong, and you can see Shenzhen and Guangzhou Airport, as well as Hong Kong and Macau. So you got quite a number of options there, and then Taiwan. But main point is there's actually 2 airports that you can fly into to get you pretty good access, and then Phuket has a major airport as well, the red one. So that means that some of these beach towns may actually be difficult to get to. But this is a great map. It has it all around the world. I'll zoom out just to show you what that looks like. It almost gets to be too much with the medium-sized airports. There's just tons of airports everywhere. But basically the red airports are the major ones. You can see in the Middle East they got quite a number of major airports. A lot of airplanes stop halfway around the world. But let's focus on Thailand. So again, what really got this started was both the question of farming and then also looking at what's going on in terms of the just overall tourist situation. So let's go and look at some of those tourist attractions. One of the big tourist attractions in Bangkok is the Grand Palace. So let's look at that here. Watch, it's not gonna. So this is a pretty cool attraction. I've seen some pictures of this. A lot of people take the boat and then view this from the river. But at nighttime, I've heard it's been very impressive. And you can kind of see over here, it's kind of got quite a number of boats here. But at nighttime, it looks really nice. But you can see this river, by this time, it would be very polluted. And you can see some of the cool kind of statues in the background here, but this is one of the big attractions in Bangkok. I'm not sure what the exact cost would be to go to some of these, but you can see fairly located downtown. So kind of different than a museum, but and they got street view for just about everything. It looks like you can take the blue line, take that over there, and then the red line goes out to the airport. So pretty interesting. What I was wanting to do is actually take a rural train further out into Bangkok and check out some of the farmland, basically on the north side here. You can dead end here, basically in the farmland, but then maybe there's another train that connects to this one, more rural train. But the Grand Palace is one of the top attractions. Maybe we can go. Let's go a little bit more in detail into this and see the Grand Palace, what these photos look like. So it looks pretty cool, kind of futuristic almost, with the city in the background there. These golden temples. So a very prestigious looking place, to say the least, and it's super cool. So definitely a cool attraction. And you got to realize this is one of the biggest attractions in the world. Many millions of people have been here. Yeah, so let's go back to this list because we got quite a number. Oh yeah, the Big Buddha. So this is in Phuket. So again, you got to know where Phuket is. So let's load this up first and show you where Phuket is. So it's this mysterious little island. It's kind of like Bali, but this island is like very slightly connected. Airport's on the north side here, but this is one of the busiest tourist attractions in the world, believe it or not. This small island, and it's only basically 20 miles by 10 miles across. But the views and the beauty of some of these smaller islands gets to be pretty unbelievable. So it is a really high attraction. But let's go look at the Buddha really quick. See if we can load this up and see the Big Buddha. I've already kind of seen this one before. See, the maps aren't quite working like they used to. I think I've been hacked. But look at the size of this Buddha. It's just a ginormous Buddha in Thailand, and it's hard to get to. That's the problem that I don't like about it. You kind of got to take a bus almost to get there from the beach. I guess you could maybe walk up the hill, but it's quite an interesting Buddha here. So you can see this is the Buddha. So they got this major hill here, and this is what the cool part is about Phuket compared to Bali. It's just got a different feel entirely, and so the beaches are right down here, and then most of the resorts and stuff are in those regions. So let's look at so Pattaya City is kind of near Bangkok, but from what I've heard, it takes like at least an hour, maybe even several hours. I don't even know what the exact time frame is to get there, but it's basically the beach city next to Bangkok. And it is quite. Let's just load that up. Hopefully this will work this time. It did. So this is Pattaya City. It's kind of known has quite a reputation. But basically Bangkok, although it says like 10 miles or whatever, this is 20, 30, 40. It starts to add up. So it's basically, 60 miles, maybe 80 miles to get to Pattaya City. And then that could be several hours on the bus, and it's not exactly easy to get there. But it is one of the major attractions because at least they have beaches that are nice. The problem is that most of that polluted water dumps out into here, and I think you can see on the Zoom Earth map, you'll be able to see some of the pollution that dumps out into the water. You can see it pretty clearly out here in Bangladesh, how far out, but it basically goes about 50 miles out into the ocean. And here you can see that's another 50 miles out to the ocean. And then in Bangkok, maybe it doesn't look so bad right now, but you can kind of see this stuff in here. That's either air pollution or water pollution. So it's bad on this side here, but not as bad on that side apparently. So that's maybe one of the reasons why Pattaya is so popular. So, but basically, if you go in here, this is kind of the main area. They have like a beachfront. But if you're willing to sit on the bus for a few hours, it can be maybe worth it. And the security isn't, it's kind of a debatable thing. You can see the water. You can see they're at least swimming in the water, but maybe there's some debates about how clean the water is. But kind of the beachfront looks a little bit like Miami, actually. Maybe not as nice as Miami, but the problem in Miami is you can't actually they have no restaurants right on the beach. You have to like walk a few blocks inland. That's because all the hotels have bought up all the property down in Miami mostly. So, let's go back and look at the Sanctuary of Truth Museum. Wow, so this does look pretty cool. Let's see where that is on a map, first of all. So this is Pattaya. So, wow. So I didn't even know about this. But this little area over here is a cool spot, apparently. So let's see if we can get a street view, maybe right in here. See what this looks like. Whoa, take a look at this temple. So it's almost wood. Is it wooden? Man, so I don't know. I've never seen anything like this. So I didn't even know they had this, but this looks so exotic and cool. And I think this is one of the reasons why people love Thailand, is just the wildness of their religious culture and some other things, which looks pretty interesting. So that's the Sanctuary of Truth, an all wood structure carved by hand. So, man, I don't know how they keep that going. But Chiang Mai, Thailand, this is the other big attraction, kind of inland. And I think for price, a lot of people have been trying to go to Chiang Mai, but you have to take a train or you take a plane to fly there. So the problem is, I'll show you where it's located. It's basically up in the hills here, so the temperature is cooler, and that's why a lot of people like it. Let's even look at Chiang Mai average yearly temperature. So let's just look at the graphs. So actually, it's a lot hotter than I thought. Interestingly, so even though it is up in the hills, so I could be completely wrong about that. But going back to that major attraction, let's look that up. A temple on a mountain overlooking the city. So this sounds pretty awesome too, actually. And almost sounds like Laos or Cambodia or something. But whoa, look at the size of that hill there. So, and then you're up in the hill here, so you're kind of, gosh, I don't even know how you get up here, but this looks like it could be pretty dense jungle. And then this weird temple up on the hill here. So pretty cool, actually. So I'm not familiar with this particular area. Let's see if we can zoom into like a particular spot. See what this guy looks like. Whoa, so some kind of mysterious golden temple. up on the hill here. So this kind of architecture you don't really see anywhere else in the world, which is kind of cool. And you can kind of get an idea for the tourists in the area. Let's see if we got anything else that looks interesting here. Take a look at this view. So yeah, so some kind of like shops and stuff, and maybe more of the temple kind of look. Almost like Bali, actually, a little bit. But these like flaming kind of edges make it look a little bit different than what you might see there. But cool nonetheless. So let's go to the last one. This one I've not heard of at all. But 2 to 3 million tourists, unlike Phuket. So it's basically an alternative to Phuket. And I did the flight costs in here so you could see flight costs. ORD to basically Chicago, mid. Okay, so let's look at this one. Colson. Whoa. So there is an airport here, so I just wanted to see where this is relative to Phuket. Oh yeah, so there's a lot of people, YouTubers, like really famous YouTubers, that are starting to like discover some of these smaller islands. And if you look at this, there's just tons of these islands all along the coast. So it's not like you have to. The problem is that the reason this one's popular is because it has an airport. So the airport map that we discussed earlier, I think it was one of these guys. Maybe, where is it? Anyway, the airport map that we showed earlier does help a lot in just looking at some of this area. So, but I'll close down this. This is getting to be quite a number of tabs. So we might want to look at this one, see if we can load that up. Take a look. So we're basically talking about the islands off of the coast here. 18-armed statue. Okay, so there's a weird statue. Whoa, so look at that. So you got like this weird beach right next to this. So this almost looks like holy cow. Okay, so we got like a little island temple or something. Whoa, Buddha's looking us right in the eye here. So anyway, we can clearly see why Thailand is pretty cool. Some of these temples are really awesome. Certainly this is one of the way better ones. It looks very colorful and well painted. And just a lot of work done on this. And then you got a little cat sitting right there too. That's pretty funny. But yeah, super cool just to see this here. This is the first time I've seen this particular island. I'm starting on Street View. You can go through and kind of check out more of what's going on here. Let's just do one more spot. So this is a totally different kind of area. It looks like maybe part of that. I don't know. It's hard to say. Little dock, but very pretty and cool. So they got this mysterious little inner lake, and then the beach is right out here. So hard to say what this is worth in terms of visiting. But we have been discussing the electronics and the technology industry, and I did want to get a little bit into the exports and the imports for what's going on for Thailand. But you can see here, basically a lot of that exports is going to the United States already, and about the same to China, and even a lot of that to Australia, and then other parts of Southeast Asia. The imports, you can see mostly from the United States, a lot from China. So they're basically importing huge amounts of stuff from China, and as well as other areas. You see even Brazil, they're getting some imports. It'd be cool to kind of go through and see what the work environment is like in Thailand. But definitely interesting. I'm really impressed with the art And I think it gets even more exotic as you get out into the Southeast Asia, other areas. But the nice part is that Thailand has a lot of solutions to some problems like farming. So we wanted to look at that first before we dove into some other areas in Southeast Asia. So I hope you enjoyed the study. Again, Thailand, we just went through. It's one of the most important places in all of Asia, in the world, basically, for Bangkok, is basically the tourist attraction. And it even went down in tourist growth, and it's still number one. So pretty interesting to see some of these numbers. Anyway, let me know if you're interested and want to talk about other details. Hope you enjoyed the study. See you.